on a daily basis, what do I do? Well, my responsibilities are all of the earned revenue for the orchestra. And as such, that basically means all of the ticket sales that relate to all of the orchestral programs that we do. So with that, I've got a team of folks that work with me who cover group sales, who cover all of our direct marketing efforts, including print, radio, web, and then we have a designer and a writer on staff, a PR team that we work with, and also just all of the wide range of stuff that goes with that. And so on a daily basis, the kinds of things I do are, depending on what time of year it is and what campaign we're in, it's generally about tracking to see what the numbers are for a given campaign, making sure that we're executing whatever strategies and tactics we have in place, analyzing as much as I can what's going on in the marketplace, and then trying to quickly bring whatever changes we need to our marketing efforts and implement those changes in order to positively affect sales. So in addition, I also do booking for our pop series, symphonic pop stuff, and some of the booking that we do at Chastain as well. So there's a programmatic aspect to my efforts as well as a marketing. And now we're about to take on a portion of our fundraising as well in terms of donors, $999 or less. Will now go into the marketing area here. Qualifications in terms of if they were to post a job description, I suppose it would say something about X number of years in some sort of senior level marketing position. But that's not how I got here. Although I did do that. I started off in public radio working in communications as a news director and radio reporter. And then left that to go and work for a company that back in the mid-'80s was one of the first companies to do telemarketing for the arts. And I ran a campaign for the Houston Alley Theater, and then I went and worked and had my own company with the Dallas Symphony, and then built on those experiences of learning about that kind of nitty-gritty marketing. And went and worked for the Florida Orchestra for a year or two, and then worked for the Jacksonville Symphony as marketing director for both those companies. And I worked in Jacksonville for 9 years and got a lot of experience in working at a smaller institution in the sense that usually when you're at a smaller institution, you've got a little bit wider range of things you get to do. And then I've been here now for 11 years. So it was sort of communications, marketing, a real direct marketing, a broader marketing director position, and then 2 steps later here at the Atlanta Symphony. Well, the challenges are fairly extensive in the marketing world right now for orchestras, in that increased competition, declining interest for the most part in the art form. Not that people don't love it still, and it's not great, but the fact of the matter is there's a lot of other entertainment out there these days, and the orchestra world is not one that's been viewed necessarily as evolving with the times. So the challenges are how do you position what orchestras do from a programming and marketing standpoint so that the experience of going feels like it's a current experience and not something from 1950s black and white television. So I find that actually pretty stimulating myself, because I think the orchestra world is really really trying to be true to the art, but at the same time find those ways that it can reinterpret itself in a way that's attractive to a new audience. I think it's working in some respects. But I think also, as many do, that one of the long-term answers has to be around music education and people playing instruments and playing in orchestras when they're younger, because we know that 75% of our audience, and I think this is fairly true nationally, are if you asked your audience how many of them played an instrument when they were younger, 75% would raise their hands and say yes. So, so to the extent that education over the long run and participation is an indicator of future attendance, then we need to be doing all the things we can do on that front. But that's sort of long term. So in the meanwhile, you have a lot of people who were positively, how do I want to put it? There used to be an axiom that people don't come to classical music on a regular basis until they get into their late 40s or 50s, when their kids have gone off to school and they've got more time, et cetera, and there's an interest. But that's sort of based on the notion that they actually were value impacted by classical music when they were younger, that either they participated or they listened, and that there was somehow in their upbringing and their education, classical music was important. And that's not as true now as it was 20 years ago. And so, in a way, while I think there's an interest and a kind of a desire to want to have that experience, it's not as strong as it used to be. And so orchestras really have to work hard at presentation and the concert format, the concert experience, and helping people understand without being intimidating, without being pedagogical about it. You have to be, it has to be thought through carefully, and convenience is another big factor. We know that people are buying smaller and smaller concert packages. They want to pay less and less. So there's a kind of resetting of the marketplace for classical music. I think you have to stay on your toes more and more and more. You just, things are shifting more rapidly, I think, than they have in the last several years than they probably have in the last dozen or 2 years. And a lot of that has to do with the digital universe that we live in now. A lot of that has to do with the demographic shift that's getting more and more pronounced now. And of course the economy as well. So I guess happily, it's how you feel about change. Do you embrace it or do you want to run from it? And in our world, if we don't embrace it and we don't go with it and figure out how to navigate it, then we're in real trouble. And so we've had to react on a daily basis a lot more quickly towards how do we make tickets available to people at the right price and in the most convenient way, and yet still get what we need to get. And so I think it's become a more interesting but more challenging time for sure. And I think the economy is especially making it so, because it is more and more true that people are buying last minute and that they are buying shorter, less expensive packages. And that's okay if we can all make that work and we can handle that shift. But orchestras have for a long time been set up to be fixed subscription packages that you bought this and everybody knew what you had, and the organization could be sort of stable based on that. And it's getting harder to be stable in that regard. The upside is that we're still getting people to buy tickets at a fairly great rate. We've not seen any big drop off. But I don't know where, I don't know what the next shift is going to be, I don't think it's going to go back to, let's buy an 18 concert package and spend, a couple of $1,000s. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're in this sort of, risk averse, make the decision as late as we can, and spend as little as we can, but we'll still go. I think that to a certain extent, orchestras are going to have to realign themselves financially somehow. Um, you know, at least a lot of them are. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them are. There's going to have to be some sort of new baseline drawn in terms of the size and scope that these orchestras are currently set at, because it's just a more difficult climate. Fundraising is more challenged. We've talked about ticket sales. I think on the upside, orchestras are going to have to continue to try and be more entrepreneurial and to be more opportunistic in their thinking. The balance of art and commerce is a little bit like reading the weather to a certain extent. I mean, it's hard because these are big institutions that take time to shift. So to the extent that we can all be more nimble, and be more creative in our thinking, I think the future looks better. To the extent that you can't be that way, then I think it's going to be really a challenging world. I don't know if I answered your question about how all of this affects me on a daily basis. I guess I would say that, especially on the digital side and in our web world, we look at all of that a lot more closely because now on a daily basis than we did, because the responses are more immediate, the tracking is more immediate, and so there's definitely a higher sort of register in my world on that front. Things like telemarketing and telefunding and direct mail are still as important to us as well, but it takes, in order to do this job, you really have to have a command of a lot of different marketing levers, from grassroots to the most sort of to the larger levers of direct mail, telefunding, telemarketing, etc. And that has to all be balanced with a programmatic approach that you feel is safe, is not just safe in terms of the marketplace, but is also interesting, and then be constantly on the outlook in terms of research and survey work about what the marketplace is saying to you. So I'm tired thinking about that.